Hi, everyone. And before I forget, we are having a free weekend for free shipping weekend. That's what I meant to say. Starting today and it's going to end on end of Sunday. So if you've been wanting to check out some supplements from us that you haven't thought about before, but you didn't want to pay for shipping, it could be a great opportunity. Or if you want to, stock up and all that good stuff, then this is a good time to do it. Okay, so today I want to talk about thermograms and thermography as a technology. It's, I'm sure many of you have been hearing a lot of debates and discussions between practitioners of should we do a mammogram or a thermogram, and these two were compared to each other as if it was one or the other. And there's always a lot of things you want to focus on, right? And so, and I only have so many hours in a day, so I finally got around to actually exploring it further and understanding it a lot deeper by talking to someone who I have a lot of respect for, who is an MD and a DO, so an osteopath and a medical doctor, Dr. Rind. And the challenge was that he doesn't want to do live interviews because of a personal preference. And so what I did instead was I interviewed him, and there was like a 3-hour conversation. So maybe it's a good thing that we don't do a live here because, not everybody has 3 hours to sit through. And then we put everything together into an article. And that article is available now on our blog post. Kalamani, who is helping me here today, we're gonna post a link in just a second where you can read the full article. But I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and just to totally set your expectations right. I am an expert in a lot of things. Thermography is not my expertise area. So I'm just gonna let you know what I do know, what I have learned from him. And if there are things that I don't know, I'm just gonna tell you that I don't know the answer to that because it's not something that I'm an expert in. But you can always ask him about it, or your practitioner. One of the things I wanna talk about today as well is how do you choose a really credible center. If you've been on our mailing list, we've mailed about it a few, I want to say last Sunday was an email that went out about the benefits and the contraindications for the good and bad of thermography. And I know we received a few emails saying that it didn't work for you. And so I want to address that as well. We're gonna talk about that. Okay, so why don't we just start off with just the biggest, I think, issue and question that we always get, and that is, should a woman after 45 or 50 do a mammogram or do a thermogram? And it's like one or the other. So I'm not going to be commenting on mammograms because it is a controversial area. You have practitioners who are very much for it. There's practitioners who are against it. And so I will make you make your own decision. You can do your own research on that. I personally will not be doing a mammogram unless I do a thermogram first. So one of the reasons why I like thermography is because it shows you what's happening in your breast way, way, way before the problem occurs. And I find that personally very compelling, just to see what is happening in my breast. Where is the inflammation? Where is there a blockage, a lymphatic blockage? And I'm going to show you some photos from my discussion with Dr. Rind. And you will see from there how interestingly different the story that you're getting is completely different. If there are women who found some abnormality and there's a cause of concern from thermography, doing a mammogram is definitely a way to go because you want to then see further what is going on. However, as Dr. Rind has shared with me, he said, a thermogram will show you physiologically what's happening in the breast, meaning, is there inflammation? Is there a lymphatic blockage that is happening? Is there a certain growth that is beginning to develop, right? And I find that fascinating. It's really, really important because, mammograms is kind of like, it's the final stage, right? Where the cancer is really developed. And then you go and do the mammogram. Mammograms are not preventative, you guys, okay? So just to make it really, really clear, and no doctor would ever tell you the mammogram is preventative from dying, yes, but it's not preventative from developing breast cancer. And so when you go and get your mammogram done, it's like, you know, the negatives are also very dangerous because it says negative, but it doesn't show you, for example, the inflammation is already building out at this point. I hope it makes sense. And so this is the reason why, you know, I actually have never had a thermogram done. So I signed up for one with a fantastic practitioner here in Boulder, Colorado. And so she's so booked out that I'm only getting it in September. So I'm patiently waiting. But one of the things I want to share with you today is also how do you determine on how to find a really good practitioner. So before that, I want to share with you, I'm going to share my screen on the article that we have written, and so this was basically our writer has transcribed my conversation with Dr. Rind. And for those of you who want to, you know, find him and work with him, he is in the URL is right here. He is found in he's on the East Coast in just outside of DC in Maryland. So that's where if you're in that area, he might be a really good person to go and see. One of the things I like about him is that he's also an osteopath, which means that he can do a lot of manipulation, for example, of the different body parts in a very gentle way to unblock a lot of the lymphatic blockages. And so I want to show you some screenshots of this in a second. So one of the things that you will learn here is, you know, what he always says is that what thermogram is basically a picture of temperatures. It is an early detection mechanism. What it isn't is it's not a breast risk assessment, a thermal assessment. He said the risk assessment comes from a doctor's interpretation of thermal findings, which may result in a full diagnosis. Okay. So one of the things I want to show you here is we're gonna post the link to this one here. Is basically, you know, you're gonna fall somewhere on this scale here, okay? And one of the ways of knowing whether the provider you want to work with is really truly professional and credible, or is it just like you know, it's not a very professional setup, and hence you shouldn't be relying on it whatsoever. And that was a lot of you emailed us and said, you know, you're promoting something that doesn't work. I had like my thermogram missed everything, and I later had problems. Is because the person has chosen a place that is actually not a very credible thermography place. And so one of the ways of knowing that they are really good in what they're doing is making sure that, and we have, by the way, we have a whole checklist for you prepared, but one of them is that they do grayscale. So the one on the left side here that you see, the grayscale thermography images are really important. A lot of people know the color scale, right? Blue being really cold, green being a little bit warmish, and of course red, like the breasts here, for example, are definitely inflamed, and there's a very high risk of cancer. So, but what I found fascinating because of my, you know, fascination with estrogen dominance is the photography, is the grayscale imagery here on the left, because one of the things that they have found is the vascularization that only shows in a black and white here is indicative of how estrogen dominant a woman is. And so many of you, if you follow us for a while, you know that if you are highly estrogen dominant, your risk of estrogen receptor positive, even progesterone receptor positive breast cancer is a lot higher as compared to women who don't have estrogen dominance. And so, and genetic cancers such as BRCA1, BRCA2, or HER2, or triple negative breast cancers are far more rare forms of cancers as compared to the estrogen receptor positive, which is majority. We're talking about 85% of breast cancers are due to estrogen dominance. So as you can see here, you know, this is a really healthy person on a grayscale. She doesn't have any of those patches, those leopard patches, as Dr. Rind calls, right? Her breasts are really nice and blue right here, right? And this is what they call risk level 1. Let me just scroll down to maybe like somebody who is, let's say, a 4 here, right? as you can see, there is a lot more green that is coming in. So there's beginning to be inflammation in the breast, but you can't really see all that much unless you look at the grayscale. And that's when you can see all the leopard spots on the breast, right? And you can see the interpretation here, which is a mild, so the moderate to high risk. Note the heat and strong vascular patterns in the left breast. The left nipple is much warmer than the right, suggestive of increased risk, right? So again, we are looking at a risk factor here rather than an actual diagnosis, whether it is or it isn't cancer. So this is, for example, somebody who has a known cancer. So number 5 here, this is a woman who has got a known cancer. See the red spot in the upper left breast. The speckles, leopard appearance in a grayscale is typical of estrogen dominance, which raises women's risk for developing breast cancer, right? So this is somebody very, very high risk. Now, one of the fascinating things that Dr. Rin has shared with me was the image of a woman who has had a coffee during the process of doing thermography. So first he did a scan and her breast looked in a certain way, and then he did the scan again and it was showing that she became estrogen dominant by having these, what I showed you just now, having the leopard spots developing very, very quickly. So this is just a reminder of like how estrogen dominance contributing coffee can be. And this was more so, not all caffeinated drinks are like that, but this is especially coffee tends to be the problem. So, and he also, is one of my conversations with him, which was also fascinating, is to see progression of women who do dietary changes, who follow, and his protocol is not as extensive as mine because that's not his focus area. But he typically gets women off sugar, off gluten and dairy, so all the food sensitivities, right? And bringing inflammation down, gets them off coffee and gets them to sleep really well. And just with these 4 things, I have seen his thermography reports of women who come in 3 months later and their breasts look completely different. So one of the things I love about thermography is that, it is a really fast and easy way and very uninvasive. There is no radiation involved here. There is no squishing of breasts. It's painless, right? Is to really see what is going on in your breast and the things that you have implemented, the diet changes you've done, or maybe reduced coffee, substituted coffee with some other caffeinated, healthier drinks, right? You're sleeping a lot better. Maybe you're doing lymphatic massage on your breast, et cetera, has helped you somewhat as compared to, it has helped you. And so you visually see this. A lot of women just want to see the results, right? Not all women are very tuned into their bodies to, for example, feel, there's less lumps, or feel like maybe your breast tenderness is not as high before your periods as it was before, right? So some women are very tuned in and they can feel the difference, they can tell how estrogenic they are, but others can't. And so that's when I think thermography is just a wonderful way of really seeing that. So the other thing I want to, share with you from this article is, so we talked about estrogen dominance, right? As you can see, is not just for, for your breast that the leopard spots show up, but is also in the overall in the body too, even in the back here. As you can see, it's written here, strong estrogen dominant, and this is somebody who's less estrogen dominant, although she still does have quite a bit of estrogen dominance here. So I'm very curious. I haven't done my thermography yet. I'm signed up for September, so I'm very, very curious how that goes. I'm definitely going to be sharing that with you after that. So this is another one I kind of mentioned that just now. Let's take a look at that. So this is baseline, somebody who had her thermogram done, and then 2 hours later, she had her coffee. Look how much more inflamed her whole chest is. She's got a lot more inflammation in her breast, right? And so it's pretty fascinating how coffee really can impact your breast. So I talked a little bit about the thermograms and mammograms, but just like a quick one here, the thermogram gives you a good idea of what's going on physiologically in the body, the way way before cancer shows up. And while mammograms gives you the idea of structure, and that's what gives you what's going on anatomically in the breast. But anatomically doesn't mean that inflammation is not an autonomy change. Cancer already is, right? And so, this is where I'd rather be signing up for thermograms and monitor my breast health rather than be running to do a mammogram first thing, and not really seeing where I am with my breast health way before that. I also want to call out, let's talk a little bit about what thermograms can miss and what are they not perfect for. So we've got those things highlighted here. So a couple of things. One is slow-growing cancers would not show up on a thermogram. So if you have a history of breast cancer in your family, I do recommend to do both thermography as well as mammograms. Calcifications in the breast that can be associated with cancer also would not show up. Some inflammatory diseases sometimes don't show up. And this is the most common one, is that cancers that are behind the breast, that aren't part of the breast, like a tumor in the pectoral muscle, which is, like right in there, which is fairly rare, but they can happen. So this is, this is just to be very upfront about that. So I want to share with you a couple of share with you a couple of factors that you can check on before you schedule an appointment. So it was interesting because the minute I did the call with Dr. Rin, I called up my assistant and my personal assistant here in Boulder, and I've asked her, I said, hey, Paula, can you help me schedule an appointment? And she said, sure. And I gave her the list to look for, the checklist that we've created for you that I'm going to share with you right now. And she got back to me and she said, you know what? There were so many fly-by-night, so many beauty centers that sell thermography, and I just feel like it was all smoke and mirrors. And they are more beauty centers. They are more like, they do Botox. They do, all sorts of laser stuff on your face and whatever. I don't know. I don't go to places like that, so I don't know more what they do. But they were more beauty centers focused on, beauty in a different way, the way I would see beauty, but whatever. So it's like enhancing beauty in a more invasive way. And so they had a thermography as just as another offering, but they were not very good quality. And so I want to highlight to you, if you look at the article, there's a whole list over there. But one of the things that you want to look for is, first of all, do they do a cold challenge? Meaning that, and you can, it's really simple, you guys. You can just have to find out a few centers. Already by looking at their website, you get an idea. Thermography is just one of the 100 services they offer. They probably don't have a specialized person who does that. The thermography center I found in Boulder, that's all this woman does. And she's got wonderful videos. She's highly educated. She's fully trained by AAT. I'll show you that in a second, right? So you kind of gauge that from the website already. So one of the things Dr. Rin says is that they should be doing a cold challenge, meaning they put cold water over your breast. It's in a plastic bag to chill down the breast so that when you do a thermogram, if there is an inflammation, the red spot, it really shows up. The significance of red is, one is inflammatory response in the body, but also if there is cancer, it would also show up as red because cancer has its own vascular system. That's part of the difficulty of treating cancer, is that it's its own entity. It is its own entity and is vascularized. And so the blood that comes to the cancer will show up as being red. So when you do a cold challenge, then the risk then the breast generally should be cooled off, right? But if it's red, then that means that the cancer hasn't cooled off because it's got its own supply of blood. So there's definitely then a good reason to go and definitely do a mammogram after that. You might want to ask them, what is the room temperature that you have and you're using? And the answer should be between 68 and 72 Fahrenheit. So it's definitely on the cooler side, right? But it shouldn't be, a super hot place. Another one which is super important is the resolution that they are using. And the resolutions can really vary. So there are some really poorly made thermogram machines that are very low resolution and would not give you the picture quality that you require. And so one of the things that We have, and that's on the website. You should be looking for a 460 by 480 pixel resolution. And again, it's really simple. Call out the center that you are considering and ask them what is the resolution they are using. And this is according to the guidelines taken from AAT, which stands for the American Association of, it's not thermography, is of thermology. Okay. We'll have a link for you there so you can take a look at it. And you can also search, by the way, actually, let me share my screen here, add it to screen, okay? There is this website. So the website is called the American Association of Thermology, and you can find a member near you. So for example, I entered my zip code here, and this is, for example, the first practitioner who showed up here is actually the one that I'm going to see. So you can search that through your own zip code. If you're not living in the United States, then just use the guidelines that I'm giving you to call up centers in your own place, and then and ask them all these tough questions, right? But then you're gonna be getting quality service that you can trust. Let's see what else. They should definitely be using a TH scale. So you know how just now I showed you TH1, how healthy, nice breasts look, and then TH5, which is like the possibility of cancer is very high. Right, TH3 is a cause of a concern, a lot of estrogen dominance. So they should be using that scale in your report. Another one that a lot of centers do not do is the grayscale that I shared with you just now. A credible thermography center and a practitioner would always want to do color, which most people know, and you definitely want to do a grayscale with that too. They should be doing a temperature assessment. So not doing eyeballing anything, but actually scan in the image, use a computer to take the temperatures of the different parts of the breast and have that a report. When you come back in 3-6 months time, especially after having made some changes, then you will see the varying in the temperatures. Hopefully it improves by then. So again, Dr. Rin said a lot of practitioners do eyeballing. That should not be the case. I think lastly, we would encourage you to find somebody who's trained and certified by AAT, the American Association of Thermography. Because, it's just, I think thermography has received so much of bad reputation because of those fly-by-night operators, and I think that's a real shame because there is so much of science to this and so much research that has just been, I think, bastardized by people who just don't know anything about it and want to, just provide a service for creating more revenue for their center while doing a true disservice for people. So there is one other thing I just want to show you by sharing this, and then I'll jump over to the few questions that you guys have posted here. So this is an image of, so like I mentioned, Dr. Rin is a osteopath as well. And osteopathy is a really fascinating area of manipulation in the body very gently in order to really bring the body to a place of balance, but in very gentle ways. It's not like chiropractic when you just go and it can be sometimes invasive. This is a lot more gentle. And so Dr. Rin shows a picture here. This is a woman who you can see there's a lot of redness right under her armpits. You can see there's a lot of inflammation right around her collarbones, a lot more inflammation under her breast as well, right? And what he did is 25 minutes later, he mobilized her first rib where he felt like the inflammation was coming from there. And as you can see, after releasing that first rib that wasn't moving very well, it was creating blockage in the lymphatic system, how much that redness is completely gone here now. So it's really quite fascinating. As you can also see her, in terms of, she's still estrogen dominant, no doubt about that, but is definitely looking better. So that's more of a physiological part. And if you can find somebody who's an osteopath who can also do that for you, that will probably be ideal. Let me just see what else do I want to talk about today. We have a whole bunch of FAQs as well. So things like, how to find Dr. Rin, what are the benefits? Like if a hotspot doesn't mean it's cancer. et cetera, et cetera. So how you can get started is find a really credible thermography center based on the checkpoints that I've given you just now. And then, and then if it shows up red, depending on if you're having a lot of greens and redness, hopefully not, then the next step would be to really address your estrogen dominance with anti-inflammatory diet. Many of you know that we have a book called Overcoming Estrogen Dominance that's addressed for that. We actually have a whole protocol here on breast, and the breast massage actually comes from Dr. Rind and is shown here. If you have the book, is on page 177, where you can read the instructions on how to do the massage on yourself. And so you can do that, after. I would suggest do that after your thermography, and then get scanned again and see how it's going to help you. So I hope this was helpful. And let's see. Farha is saying how to manage estrogen. So like I've explained just now, I think the best thing is to get the book and learn. The book explains everything, how to overcome estrogen dominance, got recipes and stuff like that. But we also have a lot of free resources on the website, hormonesbalance.com, hormones with an S, hormonesbalance.com. Mary's asking, would it be better for someone with a family? Let me just show this. Would it be better for somebody with a family history of breast cancer to have a 3D test done on the breast or even MRI? Yeah, Mary, I can't comment. If somebody has got a history of breast cancer, like I said, thermography is not comparable to mammograms, right? And are you talking about the 3D mammograms? Because I understand they are as invasive as, and you're getting the same amount of radiology done on it as mammograms. That's my understanding of it. This is a very personal choice, and I cannot advise on that. However, like I have so much of history of estrogen dominance and estrogenic cancers in my family that I've signed up to do not just my breast, but I've actually signed up to do the whole thing from neck down all the way down to my hips. And so it's going to include the ovaries and stuff like that. So I want to do the whole shebang. And, I'm just trying to, I think really hard to convey this to you guys is that this is a preventive, take care of it early. Don't wait till it's cancer. Don't wait till you find that lump, right? And that's really what thermography can really help, because it shows you, cancer doesn't just show up one day. You don't wake up and you have cancer. Cancer is a years of progressive inflammation that's happening and degradation and DNA damage that happens in the cells. This happens for years, and sometimes fast-growing cancers can be months, but most of the cancers is years before they manifest, right, as form of cancers, which a mammogram will pick up. Do it earlier. Do it way, way earlier. Start doing it now so that what is your risk factor? How estrogenic are you? What is the inflammation you're having in your breast, right? It's going to be so much more meaningful. Does organic coffee have the same effect? Yes, it does. And, Dr. Rin was talking about, actually, Kamalani, if we could pull out the article we have about coffee, it was like 11 ways coffee impacts your hormones. I want you guys to read this, because it is really quite eye-opening on, there's people who push coffee, who sell coffee, right, including Bulletproof, will give you these 20 reasons why it's so amazing, right? But then they cherry pick the research and that the substantiate how many antioxidants it has and yada, 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 right? And then you have another set of research about coffee that is not very complimentary, but they choose to ignore that and not present this, right? Because it doesn't serve their story and marketing. So, coffee, it's just all around, it causes estrogen dominance. It impacts your liver. If I have coffee, I get hypoglycemic. My blood sugar level goes out of control, which exhausts your adrenals, which causes sleep problems, which causes your nervous system to be on constant alert, acidifies your body, right? The list of drinking coffee is actually quite long and very unimpressive. Having said that, I'm not asking you to completely give up caffeine, because for some of us, it really is like that little spark plug you need first thing in the morning. I'm drinking here tea with some butter in it to You know, and it is caffeinated, right? But it doesn't have the same effect like black coffee, green coffee. Many of you have seen me drink matcha tea on those calls. I always ask you, what do you think I'm drinking? Many people say celery juice. No, it's matcha. There's also caffeinated drinks, but they don't have the same effect. Melissa is asking, what about high quality decaf? So when you say high quality decaf, what does that mean? The issue with decaf is that it is soaked in various chemicals in order to extract caffeine from the beans. And so that itself can be chemical as well. I don't think the decaf will cause those patches that you saw, the leopard spots on the breast, and make you as estrogen dominant. However, you're just loading up on possibly on other chemicals. Mary saying, my naturopathic oncologist does it in his office for $50. I will pay that any day rather than get squished. Yeah, totally. I mean, that is very, very true. Okay, let's see what else we've got coming in. All right. Well, it seems to me like it's a bit of a vacation period, so everything seems to be a little bit quieter this month, and that's okay. So, you know, I hope this is helpful. And if you're interested in working with Dr. Rind, please give him a buzz. We just contact his website, and you know, if you're willing to fly to DC. If I was closer to him, I definitely would have gone to his office. It's just too far, and I don't want to fly right now with all that COVID development. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, you guys. And you know, and you schedule something for yourself, take care of it. You know, I'm all about preventative measures rather than be dealing with issues later on. I mean, I think one of the scariest things for women is finding a breast lump on their breast and then going through the whole crisis of how do I get it diagnosed, and you're being pushed into mammograms. They make you feel like you're gonna die tomorrow if you don't get it done. And you know, what about MRI? Has its own radiation issues, right? And et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, take care of things early. That's my whole message. And with thermography, but also with a proper diet, getting off junk food and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, we are launching Estrogen Reset Live coming up in September. So it's just a little teaser. You're going to find out a little bit more. So for those of you who, you know, have the book and you want to do this live with us together as a community, and planning and shopping together and keeping each other accountable and doing it together as a community. And we are starting in September. So make sure you check us out or subscribe to our website so that you know when we are about to start. Okay. Thanks everyone for being here, for your lovely questions. And I shall see you very, very soon. All right. Bye for now.